Hello and welcome to the Daily Bible Podcast. My name is William Hemsworth. Thank you so much for joining me for today's episode. Well, today's kind of exciting. Today we finish Matthew chapter 9. So we're going to look at Matthew 9 verses 35 through 38 today. So, like I said, this is kind of exciting. We're continuing our journey through Scripture. December 1st, we started with Matthew chapter 1 verse 1. And here we are today, finishing Matthew chapter 9. And if you're new to the Daily Bible, every verse is covered, no verse is skipped. We're going one by one, and the goal is to finish the New Testament and then start with the Old. So thank you for joining me on the journey. So here we go, Matthew chapter 9, verses 35 through 38 say, "And Jesus went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing every disease and every infirmity. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them, because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, 'The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Pray, therefore, the Lord of the harvest, to send out laborers into his harvest.'" So we see a lot of this imagery about shepherds and sheep. We even hear about that today in our churches. I think it's a great analogy. So Jesus seized compassion on the people. They needed spiritual and physical healing that only Jesus could give. So he had great compassion on them. And the figure of a sheep and a shepherd is a very, very famous Old Testament simile, if you will. And we see it several times. The sheep often represent the people of Israel. And we see that in various Old Testament passages, such as 1 Kings 22:17 and Zechariah chapter 10, verse 2, just to name a couple. Shepherd imagery is also used to describe Israel's leaders. Joshua and Moses. Joshua was Moses' successor, and Moses was called a shepherd in Numbers 27:17. And so David was also he became king of Israel to shepherd the people of Israel, which is a fitting description because David, as you may recall in 1 Samuel, was also a shepherd for his father, Jesse. And we also see this idea of a shepherd in Ezekiel chapter 34, where God himself promised to send one shepherd to feed and protect his people as the new Davidic king. And of course, Jesus draws on these to illustrate his own role as shepherd and the new Davidic king of the restored Israel, which is the church. And Jesus goes on to say that the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. See, in the very next passage that we're going to cover tomorrow, Jesus calls the disciples. This is in anticipation of Jesus calling those apostles to labor to all those lost sheep out there that need shepherds. So I hope this helps describe this verse a little more. God bless you guys. Thank you for joining me on this edition of the Daily Bible Podcast. Join me tomorrow as we start Matthew chapter 10. I'm really excited about that. A lot of good stuff in the 10th chapter of Matthew. A lot of good stuff in the Gospel of Matthew, period. I'm really enjoying this journey. Thank you for joining me on it. If you have any questions, comments, any prayer requests, please email me at hopewithin18@gmail.com. And thank you for listening. God bless you.